Jake felt a mix of frustration and anxiety as he packed his hiking gear. The trail he had planned to explore was crowded, and he wasn't in the mood to face the crowd. On an impulse, he decided to take a shortcut through the forest. It'll be quiet, no one around, he thought. After walking for about half an hour, Jake stopped abruptly. In front of him, a mother moose emerged from the trees. Her eyes met Jake's, and for a moment, both stood still. Jake felt his heart race. He knew he had to stay calm to avoid scaring the animal. Looking closer, Jake noticed the moose had several injuries. She was limping and looked exhausted. Jake took a step back, trying to assess the situation. What happened to her? He wondered, his mind racing with possibilities. Jake took a deep breath, reminding himself to stay calm. "It's okay, girl," he murmured softly, not moving a muscle. The mother moose kept her eyes fixed on him for a few more seconds before slowly retreating into the forest. Jake stood there, still stunned by the encounter. He knew this was just the beginning of an unexpected journey. Jake couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen. The image of the injured mother moose stayed in his mind, and he felt compelled to do something. He remembered the last time he had seen her with a calf. If the calf is still out there, I need to find it, he decided. He headed to the creek, the area where he believed he had seen the mother moose and her calf. The environment was silent except for the soft sound of running water. Jake searched attentively, his eyes scanning the terrain. Suddenly he heard a faint sound of movement. He followed the sound until he found a moose calf trapped in deep mud. The calf's eyes were wide and it was trying to free itself, but the mud seemed to be swallowing it. Jake's heart tightened at the sight of the small animal struggling. "I can't leave it here," he murmured to himself. Without wasting time, Jake began assessing the situation. He grabbed the rope he had brought for climbing and found a wooden plank nearby. Carefully, he prepared a rescue plan. "I have to do this quickly and safely," he thought. He tied the rope around the plank and used it to reach the calf. The terrain was treacherous, and each step felt more dangerous than the last. Jake crawled through the mud, his heart pounding with each move. Finally, he reached the calf and with effort began pulling it out of the mud. The calf was visibly exhausted and barely moved. Jake struggled to stay calm and applied basic animal rescue techniques. "Come on, little one, you'll be okay," he whispered to the calf, trying to convey some hope. After several minutes of intense work, Jake managed to pull the calf out of the mud. He carefully placed it in a dry area where he could check if it was okay. "At least you're out of the mud," Jake said, watching the calf as it tried to recover. The calf was weak but breathing, which was a good sign. Jake sat beside it, waiting for it to gain strength. He knew he had done the right thing, but also knew the work wasn't finished. The mother moose was still out there, and he needed to ensure she and her calf received the help they needed. Jake was watching the still fragile calf when he heard a familiar sound from the trees. The mother moose appeared, limping towards them. Jake slowly backed away, allowing the mother to approach her calf. The reunion was touching, the mother moose sniffing and licking the calf, showing relief at finding it. However, the mother moose was visibly more injured than Jake had initially realized. She was having difficulty moving, and her wounds seemed worse. Jake knew he needed to act quickly. He took out his phone and, with trembling hands, called the forest rangers. He explained the situation, emphasizing the urgent need for help. While waiting, Jake tried to stay calm and comfort the animals. He spoke softly, trying to soothe them. "You'll be okay. Help is on the way," he said, more to himself than to the moose. After some time, the forest rangers arrived, alerted by hikers who had witnessed Jake's rescue. They came prepared, bringing medical supplies and a small team to help. One of the rangers, an experienced woman named Sarah, took the lead. "Good job, Jake," she said, admiring his courage. "Now let's take care of these injuries." The team worked quickly, treating the mother moose's wounds with the utmost care. Jake watched intently, feeling a mix of relief and concern. The forest rangers decided it was best to transport the mother and calf to a wildlife rehabilitation center. "They need more intensive care than we can provide here," explained Sarah. Jake helped prepare the animals for transport, feeling a bit more hopeful seeing the team's efficiency. The trip to the rehabilitation center was smooth. with Jake accompanying in the ranger's vehicle. He didn't want to leave the moose until he was sure they would be in good hands. Upon arrival, the center's staff was ready to receive them, immediately taking them for treatment. Jake finally took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility lessen a bit. He knew he had done everything he could to help, but also knew the road to the moose's recovery would be long. He bid them farewell, promising to visit. "You're in good hands now," he said softly as the moose were taken inside the center. Jake left the center feeling a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. He knew the experience had changed something inside him, deepening his respect and admiration for nature. Days turned into weeks as Jake visited the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center regularly. Each visit was a mix of hope and anxiety. The mother moose and her calf were under intensive care, receiving treatment for their wounds and infections. Jake stayed by their side, watching closely as the veterinarians did their work. "They're making incredible progress," commented Sarah on one of his visits. Jake smiled, feeling more relieved each day. He spent hours by the moose's enclosure, talking to them and offering words of encouragement. He felt his presence somehow helped in their recovery. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived. Sarah and the center's team decided the moose were ready to return to the wild. Jake was invited to participate in the release, a gesture he accepted with gratitude. "You were part of this, Jake. It's only fair you're here to see the happy ending," said Sarah. On the morning of the release, the center was buzzing with excitement. The moose were transferred to a larger enclosure, where they could get used to more freedom before being fully released. Jake was there, following every move, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. When everything was ready, the team opened the enclosure gate. The mother moose took a hesitant step out, followed closely by the calf. They stopped for a moment as if absorbing the freedom they had regained. Jake felt a wave of emotion seeing them there, strong and healthy. The moose began to move, exploring their surroundings. Jake followed at a distance, ensuring they adapted well to their new home. He knew this was the moment he needed to say goodbye. "You're ready for this. Be free and happy," he whispered, feeling a tear of joy roll down his cheek. The mother moose looked at Jake one last time before disappearing into the trees, the calf by her side. Jake stood there watching until he could no longer see them. He felt a profound sense of accomplishment and peace. He had made a difference, and the experience had changed his life forever. With a contented sigh, Jake returned to where Sarah and the other rangers were waiting. "They're going to be okay, Jake. You did an amazing job," said Sarah, placing a hand on his shoulder. Jake smiled, feeling the warmth of gratitude. As he left the rehabilitation center, Jake felt that adventure had come to an end, but knew life's journey always continued. He was ready to face any challenge the future held, with a heart full of courage and love for nature. A few weeks passed since the emotional release of the moose. Jake continued with his life, but the memories of that adventure were never far from his mind. He felt more connected to nature and more aware of the importance of protecting wildlife. One peaceful evening, while relaxing in his backyard, Jake saw movement at the edge of the forest. His heart leaped when he saw the mother moose and her calf emerge from the trees. They stopped for a moment, as if knowing they were being watched. Jake stood still, watching the scene with a smile on his face. The mother moose looked directly at Jake, as if recognizing the man who had helped save their lives. The calf, now stronger and full of energy, played beside her. Jake felt a wave of emotion seeing the special bond that still existed between them. He approached slowly, keeping a respectful distance. "Hey friends," he said softly. "I'm glad to see you're doing well." The moose didn't flee. Instead, they seemed to accept Jake's presence as something natural and safe. Jake reflected on everything that had happened. The impulsive decision to take a shortcut through the forest had led to a series of events that changed his life. He learned about courage, compassion, and the impact one person can have on the natural world. As he watched the moose slowly move away, Jake felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment.